Hello and welcome into Limited Time Only, brought to you by Sorare Data. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare. Joined once again by GatorGuy231. Actually, I mixed that up. Keith Jameson, GatorGuy231 on Sorare. Keith, do you ever have certain songs that just like hit differently at different times? Like the intro to that one, I think the last week's show, and it just started, and I was like, all right. And this week's, I'm like, let's go. I don't know what it is. But.
Not that much energy. But I was like, all right. I couldn't remember what the song was. I'm like, all right, I can take this. But I'm not going to have the Sean full-out rapping energy.
Sean really
we'll leave that for him.
Yeah, that's good. I don't know. Something about it just hit differently today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Looks like Glenn was first in, asking if we got our OG badges yet. I don't have one yet. Keith, I don't think you have one yet. I don't think you qualify for one.
I have enough comments.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought there was a chance that you didn't.
140. No, I'm anxious because I don't have a burger either.
Do your commons include the current ones for the amateur divisions?
See, I haven't had the time. I was gonna say I don't have the time to do that. I have 141, and I only did EPL and MLS amateur division, so I feel like
you should have enough.
Be okay, but is it just like I feel like we're being penalized from stopping playing commons and letting like other people when they started giving away rewards like in it? I'm like, I don't want to like roll out like I had some crazy comments. I don't want to like roll those lineups out and take away like T3 and T4 limiteds that other people could use. So I stopped playing. Now I feel like I'm being penalized.
You should be penalized for that. We're all in it for ourselves, Keith. You thinking about other people and those who could benefit from you not participating. That's just, it's selfish, or it's actually the opposite of selfish, and that's not what this game is all about.
Well said.
Anyway, Germ said he's still Team Watermelon, which I think that's what you do.
I don't have that either.
Buy the burger.
What if you have none of the cool emojis? Do you just give up and leave?
Yeah, you have to go play Ultimate Champions now.
Oh God, the learning curve there. My God.
Yeah, I tried once and I just couldn't do it.
Remember
mini teams.
This is way off topic, so apologize. We'll get on topic, but I think any chance of me even trying that game out got ruined when they released that. I don't know if it was a joke, but the basketball scoring.
Yeah, I can't say I know if that turned out to be the game
real or not.
Yeah,
but in my head, it was real, and I was gone. Like
that was it.
No
yeah.
thanks.
I don't know. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about limited lineup prioritization. We've actually done a lineup prioritization show. I feel like we've done a couple of them actually on the channel at some point. Never really about limiteds, and I think it's important to talk about it because we've kind of mentioned this before. The limiteds are really their own game. I know that Cap 220, I know that Rare 220 allows you to play limiteds, and that's kind of the only. There's no limited pro, so like limiteds are all kind of on their own. And the more that I played, the less I actually thought of lineup prioritization. And it was just like, oh yeah, here are my best cards. Let me just go in and play them. But there is strategy to it. It really depends on your gallery itself. And so we're going to try to dive into where we think people should probably prioritize based on gallery size or level of cards that they have, if they have all elite limiteds or if they have stacks, so we'll go into that. Keith, you actually wanted to talk about this. So Why did you want to talk about it?
Well, one, because we have to have a topic. So that was step one, to have a topic. No, it occurred to me as I was like making it and I'm building out my limited gallery again about where to actually like put things. And it is incredibly different. Like, actually, let me go back. The reason that the topic came up was being bashed a bit for my choices of prioritization in other levels this past weekend. I made a choice that I'm sticking by. Thank you, Laird, for the support on that. But I made a choice that I think I still would have been in All-Star Rare Pro. I'd be second if I left the lineup that I had saved. And I decided to move a player into All-Star Super Rare because I thought it made two really good lineups that both had a chance to compete, which they did compete. But
compete or compete?
I would say both having like top 10 shots throughout the weekend was compete.
Yes.
But yeah, like that's a choice I still stand by. But then I was like looking at it for limiteds, and I'm like, this is actually not even a choice in limiteds at all, because you can't mix scarcities across. So, you know, I kind of brought it to you that I'm like, I think the shows that have been done in the past on the channel in terms of competition prioritization never really touched on anything that works for the limited user. And for somebody coming in that let's say they buy 5 to 10 cards, they might put them in the wrong spot. That doesn't make sense by not knowing that, or even by using other advice. So I think it's a really good conversation to start out at this level.
Yeah, I think one of the important things that we want to point out is, and I feel like I do this every time we talk about kind of galleries or lineups, is no two people are going to play this exactly the same. You could have the same budget and a different risk profile. You could have different budget, same risk profile, or excuse me, same budget, same risk profile, and have just different priorities in terms of what you want to win, what your expertise are in terms of league or team knowledge. So whatever we discuss, it's not like this is absolutely what you should do and you're wrong if you don't do it this way, because I don't think that there's like a singular, I don't even think there's like 3 right ways to play Sorare. I think there's a ton. And so we'll just get into that. But I do feel like a lot of the intro advice content out there is, you know, you play the common league or the amateur league for a little bit, you buy 1 card, you play the semi-pro, and then you play the league. And like some people just don't want to do that. And I get it, because I wouldn't want to do that. I would like to, I prefer to just jump right to 220. Then you can use a common card. You don't have to buy all 5 cards. But you're also probably buying cards you don't really want to own at some point. Yep. Like those are your stepping stones. And if you are financially able to just go in and buy, let's say, a Challenger Europe team, going through those steps is not necessary.
Well, and I'll even go one step more on that too, is that I think the reality too is with the caps, and you know, in cap 240 you can win a scarcity up and some ETH, and in cap 270 you can win a scarcity up, but then there's more ETH payouts in All-Star. Like there's a lot of things to take your attention away. And I know a number of people that I've brought on the platform that are doing limiteds, and shame on me for not necessarily in the past knowing as well, like to advice and not spending time to look into it. But they literally get very results oriented, and they're like, oh, I went to All-Star, but I only finished here, and I would have finished here in Challenger. Thus, the correct decision was go to Challenger versus what the intention or what they wanted to win was. Like, I'll say this, you've mentioned this many times, the absolute single best person in the server industry on focusing on what he wants to win, Mr. Quinny himself.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot that can actually be learned from that, and how he looks at things to how we can ultimately maybe make some of the best decisions for us, not the best decisions in general, but the best decisions for you, kind of based on that strategy.
Absolutely. And I'll even piggyback on that and give Quinny some more credit, because not only does he recognize, and this isn't, although he does take it, I think, a step too far in terms of like, oh, there's a card I want to win, I'm going to play that. But I do think that there is an area where, like, if you have no interest in MLS league or any of the America divisions, you're like, I'm just going to go play the America. And it's like, well, you realize that like what you're going to win is guaranteed to be something you don't want to have. And so I think that there are definitely ways to attack this game from, I hate to say like an ROI perspective, because I don't look at this as an investment in itself. But if you are like an expert in one thing and it doesn't happen to be like the most profitable division, like Asia and America tend to be less valuable than Challenger Europe and Champion Europe. But like, if that's what you're good at, then you should focus on that and then work your way up, because you're probably going to be more successful in what you know. And so what you know is probably what you want to win, or vice versa, whatever it is. But the thing that I wanted to extend on that with Quinny is not only is he really good at saying like, this is the type of card I want to win, I'm going to focus there, but also let me build my best lineup first and then my second best lineup second. And if that means I can only have 3 lineups this week instead of 8, he does it. And I think that is like, I think one of the hardest things to do in this game is like, man, I could have 5 lineups, but I really should only have 2. And the number of times that people make 5 instead of 2 is
I always pick 5 and 8.
Yeah.
But as a caveat to that too, there is, I can't remember the game week, but there's distinctively one time. It's only one, so now I'm holding on to that one time. But the lineup that I like shoehorned a million things around to get put in to like Challenger Europe, and it was just like, it looked terrible. I was like, why the hell would you even submit that? And it got like 8th. And from that moment on, that was the reassurance that I needed, that more lineups. It was like, dude, like you've actually been researching him, but Powell Bakshowitz, I think is how you say it. Or that's not how you say it. That's how I'm going to say it. From that dude drops 100. Some other I think I had the guy you had for a while from Fire Nord, Jacob Rasmussen, before he benched. He gets 100 that week. It was just like the most random amount of things. And it's like, oh, top 10? Okay. Well, this was the correct decision to move everything around to make this happen.
Did you actually move things around to make it happen? Like, were those cards going to be, they were. Oh, okay. Because I was going to say that felt more like should I enter this lineup? It has no chance. And the answer for that is always yes. Enter a lineup.
No,
even if it has no.
It was like, if I remember right, it was seriously like, okay, my 2 best players left. I want to say that was like lineup 6 that I'm getting down to. And my 2 best players left are forwards. And I should play them both here together. But if I play one here, I don't have another forward to play that other lineup. Thus, I choose the other lineup.
Gotcha.
That kind of one of those moves.
Yeah. The 3 comments I wanted to point out, looking for food. Is there a fun ROI? And I think there is, but I know that there are plenty of people who disagree with me, and they only, maybe one of them who happens to do a show with me usually every Monday, who's like, no, winning money is fun. That's the fun. But I do think that there is
ROI equals fun.
Right.
Fun does not equal ROI.
Right. Which I personally disagree with. Yeah. And so I think there is, yes. Mike Basson saying the first decision when moving into buying cards is what do you want to win most, ETH or cards, because there are now set paths for both options, which I think is absolutely right. I mean, theoretically, anywhere where you can win ETH, you can also win cards, but the bar there is lower, obviously, for one for the other. And then Ben Johnson was saying cap 240 is my priority each week. You don't need a wild score to get a good reward. So I actually wanted to go into that a little bit because obviously the cap 240 for limited is much lower than rare, super rare, and unique. And when we were, Quinny is here. Quinny shows up just as we finished talking about him.
Bragging about him.
Yeah, Quinny, go back like 5 minutes and you'll be just lauded with credit. But ZM Star says that my first decision is always how much do I hate myself today?
That's actually like a layered decision based on how many trade he got rejected the previous night when he wakes up.
It's always all of them. It's not all of them. So it's either all of them or there's some that are still outstanding because those people haven't checked their offers yet. But anyway, so when we did that AAA exercise a few weeks ago, trying to play All-Star Limited, you and I talked about like, what should we do it for cap 240 and see how much a threshold can get you. And if you're looking to make your money back as fast as possible, I actually struggle to see the threshold being the easiest way to do it. Like, I actually think winning cards and selling them is you can like win enough faster, if that makes sense. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I tend to agree there. I'm happy to like hear comments to why that's not the case, but I think it's because we've also seen that sometimes cap 240 tiers are watered down a little bit. So, not all tiers are created equal. Like if you go under your rewards, there is capped tiers that are different than All-Star in terms of like the players that are in it. So I do think, you always, when you're making lineups, I personally think you want to try to optimize to get the best rewards. Like that seems obvious, but I want my best cards to be in the place that they can win the most. And right now, the way that the competitions are set up, Cap 240, if everything falls right that week, Cap 240 is not going to maximize my return. All-Star Limited is going to maximize my return. And you want to have it when everything, in my opinion, this is my opinion, but when everything comes together, you want it to actually come together. You don't want all of a sudden be capped out and Cap 240. You actually only got $5 in ETH, right? Not the first prize. And you got a rare and you got the other card, but your ETH payout was capped out, which is a big deal in Limited.
I think that's actually really important, and probably something, another show we should do at some point about threshold, that with the way that the prizes are distributed, and they do kind of say like you can win the best rewards. Like I'm looking at the cap, like for capped Limited this week, like the live week, like Mbappe is at the top of the list.
Mm-hmm.
But like you're probably not winning Mbappe in Cap 220 or certainly not Cap 220, but like Cap 240.
Right.
And so really, if you're playing capped 240 for the threshold, your goal should be to score 250.01 points.
Correct.
And so that does two things. One is you are not taking you're not playing the best players. Like you're playing the best value players, but like you're not trying to come to finish first. Like I remember when not to like bring myself up here, but I finished second in Cap 240 super rare once. And the person who finished 300 spots behind me got the same ETH. And it was like, everybody wins the same amount of ETH there. And so like ETH wise, like you said, you're limited in how much you can get to. Whereas like an All-Star, like first place in Cap 240 Limited wins $5. First place in All-Star Limited wins $400. And that's like obviously a big difference.
Huge difference.
Obviously the lineups are much better in All-Star, and that's like ignoring the fact that the rewards themselves are better in All-Star. And so like 240 Limited, I think if you're like, how fast can I basically break even on whatever it costs me to buy these cards? I actually think that's the worst way to do it.
And it's almost misleading too, because if you're doing it well, you're getting those $5, and let's say you put 50 back, and you're like, okay, 10% here, 10%. I'm almost there. Not paying attention to maybe like for the ones that you absolutely just crushed it, like the lineup just went off, or let's just be real. What we saw with our little pick score exercise, you bought a guy for $4 that was a 37 cap hit because you needed him to fit. And then, what was the French dude that I love that dropped 100? He was $4, but he had a cap hit of 58. So the same exact resources in terms of just dollar amount, I could have gotten the dude Livalent. There you go.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I'm like, guys, I'm gonna remember his name for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're gonna have his jersey behind you soon.
if I can win in the jersey shop, right? But no, like all else was the same, but the 37 guy was never projecting for 100, whereas Livalent, me and you were like looking through the picks, we're like, oh my God, why is this guy so awesome? Because he's in the second division, he gets buried. There's so many of his limited cards out there that they don't carry as much value, but they can absolutely bang on. So I go at that point, all right, same amount of money, but you might have been able to top 10 in All-Star versus in Cap, you just kind of, you had to throw in the 37 cap hit guy, and he limited your outcome because he got 40.
Yeah, absolutely. Two comments from the chat. Alex Wilson brought up, don't forget Academy now pays $5. The lineups you need on most weeks to win that $5 is much better than
Can
play it.
It's probably not worth it, but just for the record, like Andy Black rolled out. What's the name of the master? Alvarado.
Yeah, Alvarado Unique. Yeah,
he had an Alvarado Unique in Academy because Alvarado was supposed to be benched this weekend. He drops 100. So just if you just have limited cards in your gallery, unless you're going to be benching Kimmich and all these guys that play Academy, just wash that out of your head, in my opinion. I don't even think about that dollar figure in Academy.
And Mike was saying the threshold in limited rare is a huge difference in priorities. 240 in limited is not getting you anywhere fast. But he also said for this current game week, he spent 0.0026 ETH. Mike, is that in the get for? He's currently sitting third. Mike, is that for?
I'm guessing he added somebody
Academy or
that he
Ben
had
Johnson,
the people and then added it.
Yeah, Ben Johnson saying a St. Mirren stack was $15. If it hits 3 times, it's paid off, which I think is very, very rare that you can find a full 5-player stack, which includes a goalie for $15. But that's fine.
You also have to think of this, Ben, too. Like, this is one thing I wanted to bring up within like all of this, the options in limited. You have less competitions in limited too than you do across the other scarcities with like your rares and like super rares. So if you're running that St. Mirren stack and All-Star over and over again to win it 3 times, that means you're not being able to use All-Star for your other cards if you've accumulated them. Like if you're just buying St. Mirren and you're not buying anything else and you just want to run it over and over again, then that's fine. But that means like if I have spent some money on some other cards, that All-Star limited spot's being taken up by that St. Mirren stack that you're only trying to win 3 times. So like to me, that's almost a waste of the entry because I only get 1. Does that make any sense, or did I say it weird?
I think you're kind of considering it upside that St. Mirren stack probably doesn't have.
Well, no, I'm just saying like I don't unless I'm only going to own St. Mirren cards and I'm never going to buy another card in the gallery. Anything I win, I'm just going to sell off. Like I now can't enter All-Star Limited with other cards that are better because I used up that spot on my St. Mirren stack. So that's that single entry fee. There's only one, or not fee. Single entry is gone.
Right. Mike was saying he bought stuff for the K-League special, which he is currently third in the limited.
How did you buy the whole thing for point?
It wasn't the whole thing. I think it was just one player.
Gotcha. No, the dude that I showed you in my cap lineup that absolutely mashed, and you said, "Who is that?" Lee K. I told you, all I have to see back to my DFS background is a guy that crosses the ball 20 times, and he is welcome to the team.
KB says, I think you can make a Oipen U23 limited stack for. Didn't they just get relegated, or did they make it?
I know that they were absolutely terrible.
I think that's maybe why you can buy it.
Maybe that's why it's so cheap.
Right. I don't know. Maybe they didn't get relegated. Oh, they survived on the last day.
They went down. Hold on. Somebody said they went down. Somebody said they survived. That's the kind of content we're here for.
That's funny. Yeah. Just that is really funny. Oipen went down, just about made it, survived on the last day. They are absolutely terrible. Didn't they just survive? I'm glad we have the Jupiler experts here. And of course, you and I are like, I don't have any idea. We were too focused on the top of the Jupiler table than the bottom.
So. Oh my God, that was for RIP to all of us Teddy Tuma owners right there.
Alderweireld scoring the goal though to win it was pretty. That was
amazing. Yeah, nice that was just. If anybody hasn't watched the whole little last 5 minutes of that thing, that was just unbelievable.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think at least what we're discussing, and everyone's like, "Oh no, you can." Let's see. Oh, Mike said he was just missing a defender. That's why.
You've been survived. It looks like.
Yeah.
Wow. Go figure.
John Andrews, didn't they just get bought out and moved to Saudi Arabia? Qatar, not Saudi. Oh well. So
just real quick, just so I don't freak out my fellow Teddy Tuma fan club people. He's very heavily rumored away, and if USG would have won the league, a lot of money, and they would have gotten an automatic Champions League, a lot more money. Potentially, they had more money to spend on him, and maybe he wants to stay for Champions League. maybe now that there isn't Champions League in the cards, that could make his move. I don't know. That's just speculation, but that's what happened today.
That's what you have. So nothing yet. We're just heading into the absolute worst time of the year for Sorare.
Oh my God. January was bad too, but this is much worse.
This is so much worse. So much worse. With the whole like, wow, that guy's pretty cheap. And then you find out.
Why is that goalie only 50? Oh, Qatar? Really?
Right. So like everybody, we're like, oh no, it's really, everyone's really cheap. I can make this stack, blah, blah, blah. And now we don't know. So
you know what the interesting, yeah, go ahead. I won't get us off topic again.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, that's kind of one of the tougher things about doing it now, like buying cards now, is if you are somebody who wants to buy cards for Cap 240, obviously you're going to have to wait. Like if you're buying European cards, you're going to have to wait a few months to start getting the ROI. And then you also have to hope that all of the cards you bought are still
survive.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It makes no sense in limited right now, in my opinion. Like the amount that they're going to go up is probably much smaller than the amount that could go down if you pull a bins to Qatar.
Yeah. So Keith, if you were starting Sorare now and you saw an opportunity to win $5 every game week, do you think you would prioritize it?
No, my thought would be, if I was going to start this now, I'm very curious how this goes to yours. I would buy a team of probably similar to what we tried a little bit before, but maybe with personally a little bit bigger budget than we gave ourselves, but some maybe what I considered undervalued guys because of name recognition isn't there, that showed upside. A lot more concerned with upside than I would be concerned with like specific, like a straight curve. Like I don't really want a guy, and especially limited, that's just 50s and 60s. Like I'd much rather have the guy that goes to 100 and maybe he takes a poop and gets to 32 and then he's at 80, then 90 and then 20. Like that's more okay to me because we need the spikes. I would like to build a lineup of those type of guys for All-Star. And then I would love to actually have any depth that I built out by buying those guys for Cap, whether it's 270 or 240s, depending on the week, maybe sliding them in there. And then, being able to utilize pick score to find a $2 guy here, $3 guy there that can fit in that lineup for that given week. Like that's how I kind of came to how I would do it.
Mm-hmm. ZM Star was asking, what would your entry point be to put in if you were starting today? I think this is actually a great question. And the first thing that actually came to my mind when I was like, oh, what would I start thinking about it is at some point you will get to a dollar amount where you're like, if I can spend this on limiteds, maybe I should just go to rare. Yeah. And that's kind of like a really interesting dynamic in this game because the jump from limited to rare is much smaller than rare to super rare. And I don't think anybody's like starting at super rare, but it is to a point where you're like, okay. And we all have done this. Like, what if I had like really great limiteds and I just like played everything? And then it's like, well, what if I didn't have that and I used that for better rare? I mean, I literally just did that myself. But it is kind of to a point where you're like, there is a maximum that you probably should throw into limiteds. And then at that point, just be like, maybe I should just play rares.
I think I didn't even think of that. Just right when you said that, you nailed it. That you probably should just cap yourself at this is what I'm putting into here. And if I'm going to add any more, then it's to level up. I think you just absolutely nailed it. Because it's such almost a loaded question and not in like a negative way, but because it's just so different for everybody. And it's hard for us to like sit in these chairs and go, oh, it's just $100. Like $100 could be a ton to somebody else in that situation. Or, maybe for me, it's $1,000 I have disposable that I could put in, but that's not even in the cards for somebody. So I will just say this, there's no time that we've seen across the scarcities that things have been cheaper. And that things kind of seem, I guess, if you have your OG badge for OG reasons and not the 100 commons, maybe there was a cheaper time, but in the recent time, especially since limited's been around, like this is, I think, about as price effective as we could get. So I think you can make a damn good lineup for $100, like a really good lineup, and have leftover for like Cap 240. That was the number that was in my head. I think you can do some damage right now with that.
Yeah. Zamstar said I was referring to a limited cap idea to never spend more than $150, let's say.
I love that. You can.
That's a lot of thresholds you need, though. Like 100.
But I wonder if he's just saying, like, you don't need $150 to play cap 240.
True.
Like, you could. I mean, we both could have done it that week that we did it. What did we spend? 35 on all-star teams?
Yeah.
And, like, I think we both could have, if we would have just focused on cap, that would not have been a problem.
Yeah, I think the issue is just how long it takes. And
right.
We've talked about this so many times that we should really just do this. Just like, how long does it take? Like, whatever the amount is. But because I think when people start thinking about building threshold teams, the expectation is that they win every game week. And you just won't. Like, most people will not win the threshold every game week. And that includes like midweeks. So when you're like, oh yeah, if it's $50, like, oh, I need to hit it 10 times. And it's like, that's really like probably 10 weekends. And that's if you hit every single one. And let's call it 15. Now you're like, wait, how many weekends are left in the season? And then it becomes one of those, like, buying cards now in your America and Asia regions, because you're not going to buy European cards if you want to start getting your money back immediately. Right. At some point, like, those seasons, I mean, I know they have plenty of games left, but at some point you're going to have to get different cards if you want to keep going.
I mean, here's the other thing too, with like kind of going back to the competition things. Top 100 and limited all-star. So if you focused on that, top 300 or 101 to 300, you get $10. So you already doubled cap 240. And now 32 to 125, 21 to 31, 50. Like, all of a sudden, we're like 5x, 6xing that threshold. That, like you said, you got second in cap 240 super rare, and you got the same amount of ETH as the guy that got 250.01 points.
Let me see.
And so I think that that's a big part. Like, and that's kind of why All-Star to me is where to start, or would be my number one lineup that I would be focused on, because not only is there ETH, but then you get payout of stars up to 20. In cap, I think it's 5, if I recall.
What was 5?
I believe it's cap. I think their star rewards is 1 through 5.
Oh, I think that's right.
Versus 1 through 20.
Yeah. Pull it up here. I went back to this, like, the current game week that we're in, the weekend game week. 240 limited. Yep. Yeah, 5. I mean, obviously you get the rares also, but those aren't necessarily rares that you're spending.
But you got your $5 too. And now for that same, now I got like $400 on the All-Star Limited side, which I can buy these days much better rare than a tier 3 rare. And I can pick the one that I want to.
Do you think you are realistically building? So what do you think the realistic cost is to buy enough limiteds to compete every week in All-Star to try to score at least 400? Because, like, that's basically the $10 cutoff, it looks like.
Yeah.
414, I guess.
I don't know, man. I look through, I'm like beyond obsessed with the pick score page at this point. Hopefully most people that have listened to this now just feel like how awesome it is. I mean, the guy that was number 1 at forward and mid this past weekend, Isaacson, who I've heard of, the guy from Midland. I've heard of him. I didn't know much about him. 2 goals. And I think you told me he had like 2 BCMs on top of it too. And I mean, he wasn't that expensive. And, like, you know, go back to like my Livalent guy. I mean, that dude was at home playing the worst team in Ligue 2. And I knew he would smash. I went away from it, and like, he drops 100, and Pick Score knew he would smash. And he was like, buy literally $4 or $5. So I just say this, that I think people think that you need the Mbappes and things like that to compete, but you don't. Like my boy Cherney, $52.
and
just
I do think
absolutely crushes his face off over and over and over and over again.
I do think that there is an overemphasis on the winning lineups.
Yeah, Olsen.
And people that think they need to build a lineup that can win first place every single game week. And like, that's why people, like, when we see the lineups that win, I mean, I don't even know what's winning with winning capped or not capped, All-Star limited this week. Oh yeah. Big Lars, Danilo, Luis Alberto, Kuipers, and Ciro Immobile.
I mean, those aren't none of those guys you would consider on any top 10 list. Maybe Hugo. Maybe. But nobody else is in any sort of top 10 positional thing. You could maybe squeeze Lars in, but I mean, he's not. You know, your people are thinking Donnarumma.
Well, I think the throwback here is like, meaning the response. Like, here's Courtois, Guilherme, Eder Militao, Borregoat, and there's Kuipers too. But
I mean, right. So I mean, nobody's saying that getting the top players isn't going to help you get up there. But the whole point, I guess, I fall down like where I've had people get on. They're like, I'm going to buy all the best limited guys, and I'm only going to have like 6 of them or 7 of them because I'm going to blow my budget on the most expensive ones. Is you're not equating for matchups, and that matchups so often are that much more important than the actual player themselves.
Yeah, like I'm confident that you can get. I was going to put a number on it, but like Griezmann, who's probably not even. I mean, Griezmann is definitely not one of the more expensive ones, but he's $123.
But he's getting up there. But you don't
getting up there. But I think you could probably get 4 or 5 forwards, for his price, and play those every week and do better.
Or just literally just looking at second and third on there. I mean, if people don't know about the legend of my gallery, Cherney, but like just pull up that guy's game log. It's if you just took away his face and you just showed the last like 2 months, it's just, and the only bad games are on international break. Because he doesn't start. Like,
oh yeah, let's just take him out.
The dude is just been unreal, and I mean, you know, he's $50 there, but you just showed Messi was 150, and Griezmann, who's been amazing too, is 120. So you know, you're a third of the price for Messi, and those are Messi-like numbers. And we're probably near the top of his price. I'm sure if we looked at his price graph, it was shooting upward.
For Griezmann,
if you would have got him at this, Cherney.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming like a month ago before he was smashing. Yeah, you have a little dip in there in March. Is that mid-May?
Yeah, $27.
Now
he's 50. He's double basically.
So not only did you get all those crazy game weeks, but now if you all of a sudden decided to offload, you could do that. One of my few good decisions, Blue Tomatoes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Not always. They don't always. We won't make the part that I listed him during international break.
Multiple times.
Thank you for everybody that didn't buy him from me.
Mike's saying we should check out his all-time score.
Hugo's been unbelievable too.
Let's just, yeah. So Cherney's his all-time average is 64 in 51 starts.
Yeah, but that's been really inflated by the last 2 months of like just hitting multiple decisives every single game. He's been unreal. But again, to your point, like why don't you like zip back, you know, a couple weeks ago and Cherney was $25. So that was kind of your point. You could have bought 5 Cherneys for the price of Griezmann.
Right. Yeah, and I think that those situations, particularly for All-Star, and I was going to say probably it happens less in the summer because mostly like the upper tier for the summer is not nearly as high as these guys. Like I can't even think of who do you think is the most expensive forward now?
Mbappe.
No, for like the summer.
Oh, sorry. Bouanga maybe?
Cecina maybe or Bouanga, yeah, like one of those. But like their prices are
Cecina, yeah.
Are much closer to whoever's second and third than like Mbappe, who's like literally
Just go to America Limited, just out of curiosity, because everybody was playing. I'm just curious at the top.
I mean, again, this is just like,
that makes sense.
Yeah,
Cucho. So Cucho, but he's U23 too.
Yep.
Hulk.
Yeah.
Hulk up there.
Let's see. For Asia,
has to be Sessigna.
It's not.
Well, those guys, because they have such short prints of them too. So Sessigna for the one that actually has full prints.
And it's not even that much. So like, I don't know. I think that playing summer is much different than playing the full European season. But I do think that just spreading out to have a number of guys and be able to play matchups each week is significantly more optimal than just, let me just go buy Mbappe
and then kind of like the second part of that plan though was like building out and like strategizing. So you put all the top ones in your best matchups in All-Star, and now you start taking your remainders and throwing them into cap. So now you can decide, hey, I can't quite do cap 240 because I've got this really hell of a guy that I want to play that just barely missed the cut in All-Star. And now I can play him in cap 270 and make it work. So then you just go cap 270 and you give away the $5 threshold that week. Or you go to cap 240 and you're like, I'm one away. I'm one defender away. Come here to pick score, sort the cap you want, and you'll be shocked. You might find a guy for $2. And if everything else looks good, $2 to earn back $5 with a little bit of upside makes sense to me.
Let's see what guys we have this midweek.
Well, you're on forward only. On forward only. I would go to mid and defender. I think we talked about a little bit. That's where you can always maximize. But do this just out of fun. Do is this midweek?
Yeah.
Do like
there's nothing that makes me happier than seeing Kevin McAllister at the top.
There you go, your boy. But do a cap of 45. So like let's pretend like we're in cap mode. Apoko should start with LAFC limit $31. But there we go. The fourth guy, $1.68. I think he's in Turkey, so be careful. But double A, and that's kind of what you get. But look, I guess he has international utility.
Oh yeah, I was just about to say that. Does he actually play?
Never heard of this guy. Hey, there you go. Yeah. But I mean, my point, $1.68. Let's just say that you look into him and there is actually something there. $1.68 that you can recover most of that, even if it's from a bot or whatever, and enter that lineup in.
Yeah, Nico, that's what I'm going to say. Said Chani talked about his summer experience last year, and I believe Chani is not playing this summer. But he said going tall rather than wide hurt his returns, which. We didn't even have cap mode back then.
It was a bad timing, though.
Yeah.
Chani had bad timing last summer. Last summer was like peak. Also, I think he's on, and I saw his comment earlier. We didn't get it. Chani said I was discriminating against OG statuses.
Oh.
Made me laugh. Well put, Chani.
I'm still not there yet, unfortunately.
I'm not either. We're being discriminated against later. We're just not OGs. We didn't play enough comment.
Nothing. But I think, you can find another one. I mean, obviously, like, all of these require more research.
Yeah, but like this, he's just fine for what you would need and for the price. I guess, when you're looking for a buck player on a 45 cap, temper your expectations a little bit.
But again, if you're doing it for cap, like, you don't need 5.
All you need to do is exceed match, and hopefully you're doing it at this point because you have one last player because the other guys you have in your lineup you like and you want to get this lineup in. But I mean, your dude, your 28, Van Bruggen, and he dropped what 80
Van
something
this
weekend on a
70 something
on a 30, probably 30 something L15. So I mean, because he had a good matchup and a good role. And it's just the coolest card, one of the coolest cards that you could possibly have.
Yeah.
Look at that.
He's on the that.
What is... Need to ask for some dividends back from you.
Yeah, right. Unfortunately, the season's over now. Yeah.
It's okay.
Just peeking at the wrong time.
We do not have the badge. And it infuriates me that you have a badge and I do not.
Yeah. If I don't have one by the end of the week, then I'm going to be like, wait, why don't I have one? Because I feel
off topic will be great. Laird just on an absolute like roll about not having an OG badge.
Someone called me. Glenn said, literally just got my OG badge 2 minutes ago. I had 200.
I'm checking. This is distracting. This is distracting my day.
I have 220. No, I'm sorry, 202. So not all of them. This is absurd. Tuggy said I'm his referrer. Excuse me. Yeah, and he got his badge before me. That is absurd.
That's absurd. Yeah, no OG badge right now for me. So
I did decide. I'm not gonna go into that now.
Leave that for off topic.
Looking for food says having a K-League team. I am used to delay wait until next month for my OG badge. Yeah.
The best K-League thing was what was it? Techers put out this morning.
That Pablo's going to win.
K-League special. Yeah, but that it was a special reward for people that have to wait, and then just Q and Powell for all the cards everybody offloaded onto him, and he just wins it. That's fantastic. So you didn't answer this. What would you do? So back to the topic at hand. I said I would go to All-Star and then probably use my leftovers for cap, and it would be like 270 or 240, whatever is a better fit. How would you do?
I think that's the right call. My thought was more of if you're like a whatever expert, if you're a Besiktas expert, is it worth trying to play Challenger instead?
That was one of the other notes I had. And I think that's spot on. Well, I would say this. If you're a Besiktas, I can't say that. That was impressive how well you said that.
And you're just assuming I said it correctly. That's what I like.
It sounded awesome. And the confidence you had in the tone, you sold me. You could, I guess, though, is there a caveat that they have like a God matchup and you go to All-Star with it?
Yeah. I mean, they're usually pretty powerful. So like odds are they have a good matchup most weeks. I guess actually even before that, do you stack?
It was funny. I think Sean brought it up in one of our chats, but that Twent has been like one of the most powerful stacks of the year just because of the way that their players align. But they have like a big hole at midfield that they don't really have a really, really awesome midfielder that unlocks. They have like a guy named Zaruki that's pretty good. But, they always have defender. Lars gets big scores. They always have small and proper, have big upside, and Burnett's had some. And then you have Czerny at forward.
I feel like every time somebody shows off their stack, it's like a different five. Like it's always Understall, obviously.
Because
and Czerny's there, but I feel like everyone else.
Yeah, but that's like the cool thing about that type of team because all their defenders score pretty well, especially when you correlate that. So I feel like most Twent stacks that I see and pop off are double defenders with Lars too.
Yeah.
Because like that's who scores really well on their team other than Czerny is small and proper, have like huge upside. So I think like people then go, okay, well, I'm going to stack Atlanta United. And it's like, Atlanta doesn't have, I guess they have Brooks Lennon, but like, does Atlanta have five guys that score that well? Not really. So maybe you should just pluck off the guys that do score well. Unfortunately, you have Guzan, so you're never going to do that well. But God, he's so bad. But like Atlanta, at least you have like Almada, and before he went Arujo or Giamacas, so you have like that midfield forward, and then like a Brooks Lennon is there. So that kind of works, but then, I guess there wasn't like a fifth. So you had to put Guzan for the correlation, but there's not like a fifth guy. So I don't think you always have to do 5-man stacks. I would say find like the three, on some teams that do really well, you don't have to always do the fifth man. Like it's okay to then play a pick score or to play just another stud and they're with them. That's in a good matchup.
I do remember somebody mentioning a while ago that like the best PSG stack had Kimmich in midfield.
Right.
And so like,
that makes so much sense because they don't have a midfielder.
Yeah.
Like
so it's basically
Verratti,
like,
I
no,
think,
no,
was
you should
supposed to
actually
be.
just play Donnarumma, Marquinhos, Kimmich, Neymar, and Messi. Which, like, I get it.
Sorry, Mike wishing Guzan stayed injured. I think Laird does too. Laird actually used the ball.
I need him back. I need him to smash so I can get out of it. Alex Wilson saying Zenit will probably always be the best challenger stack while the Brazilian contingent is there. I'd say the only thing that those of us who don't have Zenit cards have going for us is that they're going to lose their 5% season bonus soon. And hopefully there aren't too many collectors out there. But I feel like those are just some weeks it happens. And like a while ago, it was like, oh, ban Ajax stacks. Like there's always going to be teams. And
always a stack that's a ban.
I think it was it ZM Star? Somebody, where did that go? Here we go. I tried to stack Wolfsburg, and the best reward I got was a tier 2. I'll probably not do it again next season. Consider higher prices at the start of the season. So stacking is kind of weird because I feel like the initial conversations about stacking, and I'll preface this by saying the initial conversations that I was aware of was talking to Sean about the Chicago Fire. And it's like, you stack teams like that because at some point when they have their good game, you're going to benefit from that good game and probably nobody else will. And so that doesn't mean it's definitely going to happen. But generally, like stacking is the way that you can attack better lineups. And when they all hit, then they all do well. And so they don't necessarily, like, you don't have to stack. They don't work every week. I mean, I know Nanzo's one who, like, what was his line? Do you want to stack?
Stack or win.
Stack or win, is that what it was? But basically, he's like, people end up stacking because it's easier. Like, you only have to research one team, blah, blah, blah. And stacking doesn't give you anything else other than all of these guys are playing at the same time. And so, but I do find that more people are stacking at limited because they're just like, oh yeah, I can just buy 5 guys and I'll play those.
I think the stack I like the most, and I'm one of my good buddies and one of the sharper DFS guys out there, Tendril Storm. I'll give him credit for how he did this metaphor to me. But I like the goalkeeper defender stacks and very okay in like a good defensive team, like goalkeeper double defender. And he equated it one time to me, it's similar to like a parlay. He's like, it's like a 5-legged parlay. But when you have like a goalkeeper and defender that correlate, now you got down to 4 legs or you have it down to 3. Because if you get a clean sheet, those guys more often than not are going to score pretty well too. I think that was like a really good way to do it. But just because you have a 5-man twin stack doesn't mean that's a 1-leg parlay either. Just because they won 2-0, you know, it helped Lars, Proper, and Small do okay. But it didn't mean that, you know, you did Ricky Wolfsinkel and Michael Vlap in midfield forward and doesn't guarantee that they scored or crushed, you know.
Right.
That's the issue. That's fair. Especially if you don't have like one of these dominant. I feel like most teams with the 5-man stack don't have the dominant forward or the dominant mid that you need to score like super, super high. Like they have a Cherney, but they don't have the midfield, or they have, you know, an Messi or Mbappe, but they don't have a midfielder that, you know, you would absolutely, that guarantees when they win 5-0 is going to go off. So I think that's the problem with just the stacking idea. Play Kimmich with Messi and Mbappe if you're going to have them, right?
Just play the best place.
Or how about we play the best midfielder in the best matchup if we have those choices, you know, to max, because, you know, I don't want to play Kimmich. I don't know. He probably crushes away to Dortmund, but, you know, playing him away to Dortmund when Messi and Mbappe are home to the worst place team in Ligue 1, that doesn't seem as fun as getting the right guy in the right matchup.
Yeah, I will say that I also feel like we get carried away a little bit. Like if a team is like heavily favored to win and you just are like, oh, they're going to win 8-0. Like teams don't win that much. 5-0, 4-0. Like that doesn't happen a ton. And so just being like a heavy favorite. I also was kind of referencing with the stacking, like full 5-player stacks. And I know you brought up the goalkeeper defender, which I think is really smart. But it is something that I think people need to consider, that like one-sided matchup doesn't mean that everyone gets to benefit.
And the Chicago Fire stack, actually the better one last year in MLS was the Union. because they had a couple like 8-0 win type of games where like early red cards and they just steamroll. Like that's where, you know, a 5-minute stack can get really fun though, is if like you get like a 10th minute red now all of a sudden. But that was kind of Sean's point, you know, 2-3 years ago, was let's say that you're on a limited budget, is getting that one outlier, that one really early red at home, and they just absolutely trounced. What was the Premier League game that was it? Leicester beat Southampton, was like 9-0 one time, something like that. That's right. You know,
that was
you're looking for one of those. Yeah,
right.
But that's how you're going to get Leicester stacked to win.
Right, like you need it to work one time to pay for the whole season, but you also have to go in knowing it's probably not winning most of the time. Like that's the benefit, and that's the risk reward with, at least when you're not stacking Bayern or Real Madrid or Man City. Germ said second in limited all-star has a union stack now.
And that makes sense because they have 2 really good defenders that you can put together, 3 really good defenders. They have, if you can get which 4 goes off, and normally it's Carranza, and then you have Gazdag in the middle. So that's a pretty good stack.
Yeah.
That's a decent 5-manner.
I also don't think he's right.
Yeah, that seems, because I don't think Gazdag had an assist. So you need a decisive.
I'm looking at limited all-star right now, and the captain had your boy Jeremy Liveland.
There we go. Did he have another good game?
Yes, he did.
What a stud. So that's like 100, and then what did he drop? Yeah, I might just have to get a Liveland jersey. Or finally actually buy a Liveland card. 100 again! Back to back. What a legend. $5. That would have been the best $5 I ever spent there.
It's almost a great second division lineup that was appropriately played in All-Star.
God, I don't know who any of those people are.
4 or 5. You know Ben Yedder, the one who's not in the
I said other than Ben Yedder.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually saw Thomason has been smashing for them without sets, without any
understand. Oh, no, he's top division too. Never mind.
Yeah, but you wouldn't know it by his name recognition. That is an awesome lineup to be second place. Holy cow! Look at
just
this
back-to-back hundreds.
What's his floor price right now?
Bought the card for $12.
But back during the peak.
Yeah,
in April, not quite the peak, but man, look at these prices. Now the question that becomes with Liveland, I mean, do we give him enough recognition that all the teams in the world are now after him, and now he'll get wrecked by going to Wolfsburg?
I mean, he's 25. I think it's,
or is he just like a league? Oh, what's Black's boy Marvin? Is he like Marvin? He just prefers the second division where he knows his skills are best suited.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I cannot.
He's a nice scorer.
Yeah, I cannot speak to being a Ligue 2 expert here of what happens with this guy.
And fortunately, Maxime won't have to become a Ligue 2 expert either with Nantes actually winning.
Yeah, cool. Never a doubt. Come on. They were never going down, let's be honest. Couldn't let that happen. I don't think we answered the question at all today.
It was a fun talk, but I mean,
it was nice to talk about. But I don't think. Well, yeah, maybe I'll just hedge back to the beginning where I'm like, "There's no right answer. Here's what we think."
Do what you want. Spend your money where you want to spend. Have fun. I will say this though, like the ROI. I'll hit the ROI thing on the way out here. It actually took like coming back into limiteds and playing around with it to like make me realize that like just making those lineups are fun. And like looking at limiteds and buying guys because I wanted to follow along the games and follow along like my research and see if my research was good. And that was fun versus so often like when, you know, a lot of us are chasing these upper thresholds, whether it's rare, whether it's super rare, and you're just having to like play who fits or play what your budget does. Like I had to buy a Justin Merrim super rare and I don't enjoy watching him at all. But like it's what was needed. I don't know. It's just to me, it's worked fine. But to me, it's been fun to like play limiteds and this past week I didn't do it because of all the fixture congestion, and then I was going to buy a J League team, and then somebody's like, "Oh, there's a Typhoon," and I'm like, "I'm gonna pass this week." But it's just been fun to actually like play guys that I want to play and like go, okay, this is a matchup I want to attack. Let me do a research. Let me find a guy and play him. That's been enjoyable to me, and that beats the ROI, like actually having enjoyment from the game. And I think that's what we're trying to go for. Topic prioritization in the future.
I did play a limited lineup this week and hit my threshold with Fred Emmings and Lionel Messi.
Show and Lionel Messi and 240 thresh. It's just amazing.
Shout out to Tuggy, by the way, for getting me this Vanderbruggen card back. That was my first limited card I ever bought, and then I sold it when I sold all my limiteds, and he got it back for me.
Oh, that's not even the 28s.
No, the 28 was in this one. I won a tier 4 rare with that one, with your 28, 28.
Hold on. I did this.
Yeah.
Yes. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah, big week for Hans Vanderbruggen in the Lairdinho FC.
Carry those lineups.
Yeah, Mike is right. Definitely topic prioritization in the future. We'll work on that. Appreciate the suggestion there, Mike. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you guys haven't hit the like button, if you could please do so. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done already. I'll be back tomorrow with Maxime for office hours. We're going to move the strategy show this week, which is normally at this time. Thank you to everyone who was tuning in to see Sean, and you were like, limited time only. That's not it. But you stuck around. You had a good time. But Sean and I will be on Wednesday. I think it's going to be noon Eastern, so 5 o'clock in the UK, 6 o'clock in France and places of the like.
I hope everything's okay, Rico.
And then Thursday, Sorare Andrews, Friday, off topic. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. And